Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pass and Move podcast. I don't know what episode we're on. Someone tell me. Nine, maybe, whatever it is. Okay, we're here with Tony Harris, who's in a bit of a mood today, can't lie. Tom Saunders, Josh Page. We've got Krutz here today as well. Dunk was here with his broken wrist, which is definitely not broken. But he's a bit touchy today, so he's just gone.
If we're all honest, Josh is upsetting.
Josh is upsetting.
Yeah.
Josh is bullying him. That's what it is.
No, we don't bully.
Every week, Josh.
Before we get started, just want to go over.
Oh, hello.
He's back.
Oh, Dunk's late again.
Josh, stop it.
Right then, before we get into anything, I just want to go through a couple of bits on the updated guidance from the FA. This was released on the 12th of June, so yesterday for the day we're recording this. A lot of it is sort of the same as the last lot. They've added a couple of other bits from the last update. You can now play football individually. You could anyway, practicing of individual skills, fitness activities. You can play football with your family or other people living in your household. You can have football training or fitness activities in groups of no more than 6, keeping 2 meters apart at all times. That includes 6. So if you're going to have a coaching session, that would be 5 players, so to speak, and then 1 coach. Obviously, always maintaining that 2 meter distance. We're looking into the possibility of training and getting sessions back up and running. But obviously we want to safeguard you, we want to safeguard ourselves, make sure that we have the right safety procedures in place before we can even think about sessions going. So in terms of that and in terms of us getting back up and running, you're just going to have to bear with us. But when we do have a plan together, we will obviously publish that on all of our socials and it will come out to you in your team groups and stuff like that. But we are working on it. Yeah, that's really what they've come up with so far. There's a massive, however many page document that they released yesterday, and the website completely crashed and you couldn't even get onto it. I know Dunk was meant to look at it, but he's, as we've established, forwarded it on to probably no one. So we would, like I say, we will look into it, and we will obviously try and get sessions up and running again. But you will just bear with us. I think we've had a little discussion this morning. We think possibly September when the schools go back, if that's how it works. But you don't know because obviously you don't know what the circumstances are going to be, if there's another peak, what the government brings out. Things will change. Things have changed so dramatically in the last few months, few weeks. It changes from week to week.
Sorry, Brad. From our end, nothing's really changed from our original discussion when they first started to ease lockdown. We were all discussing hopefully a restart for team sessions of early July, based on the season hopefully starting in September. That would be our normal plan of that. Pass and Move football for all sessions we expect likely to be from September, mainly due to the ages of the children that come, the numbers we have and the need to social distance. So based on that, we'll hold that one off. But as a group of coaches, we've got a meeting over an online meeting this week to finalise what we hope will be a sensible plan of return to action. I'd like to think we'll be back in some form of team training in the smaller group numbers, obviously, from early July. But we'll get a plan pulled together that will make sure we got a venue, because we need to make sure venues will let us train. B, we've got sufficient cleaning of equipment, etc., non-sharing of equipment, enough coaches to be able to make it work as well. So, as Brad's already said, everyone's well-being is our primary concern over getting back, and not just getting back, because we're allowed to, and not for the sake of it. That's the wrong way of putting it. But I don't want us to jump back in too early. So
I think anyone that has started, in all fairness, has probably gone a bit too early, because I know there's a couple of clubs and teams football that have started. Personally, I think, bearing in mind the detailed guidance only came out from the FA and Sussex FA yesterday, anyone that's started this week already is probably gone too early, in my opinion. Maybe haven't got the proper plans in place, would be my
I mean, each to their own on it, mate, to be honest, is my view on that. Everyone can do what they want, but I think we'll just do what we believe is the right thing for all our Pass and Move members, and our, as Brad's already detailed, and I'm sure Dunk will back up, it's the primary concern for everyone is the health and safety of everyone involved, not just get back to playing football.
Right,
just
and
'cause
their
you can.
families as well. You know, you've got to think about the wider picture. It's not just who's at the session; it's who they then go home to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone agree on that?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Right, Crutch, goalkeeper coaching.
Yeah, we've got a goalkeeper here this week.
As we've got a rugby keeper on, we might as well get him involved.
Right,
Have you
okay.
got your gloves on?
They're under my bed behind me.
Are you missing playing, Crutch?
I am now. Originally, I was enjoying the break. You know, but I play a county league, so it's a lot of travelling. So it was nice to have a little bit of time away from it. But now it's horrible. Like I'm thinking about going pre-season. I've got so unfit.
So a common started training now? Are they
No.
back into training?
So Common have been quite laid back about it all. They haven't really approached anyone as far as I'm aware. It's been a case of Russ has messaged a few people and said like, oh yeah, we're planning on starting like a few bits here and there. If you want to come along, great. But that's been about it.
It's quite early though, anyway, if I remember rightly, in terms of when you'd normally restart pre-season.
So
probably coming up back end of June normally.
No. So pre-season would have normally started around about now.
Would it?
Because for county league clubs, the first week of fixtures for like league and cups, it's first week of August, which will be FA Cup.
Right.
So
any time now, then really you'd be restarting.
Yeah. So you normally do about 2 weeks before July, and then you would have pre-season games all through July. So it's quite a bit surreal.
Well, there's no way you'll be starting start of August. I wouldn't have thought.
No, not a chance. Well, you think the FA Cup final this year is the first week of August, which is when the FA Cup would normally start for clubs in our league. So,
fair enough.
Tom, you're really enjoying that donut, aren't you?
Hey, look how much custard this has got in it. That's
Custard in a donut, that is so wrong.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
What, really?
We used to have caramel-filled donuts at the bakery I worked at.
Apparently, where do you stand on custard in donuts, mate?
Mate, you've seen my physique. I don't touch that sort of stuff.
I was going to say, how's pre-season diet going, Tom?
Tom's looking really absolute figure of a man.
Smashing it, mate. My body's a temple.
He's got a Tom Selleck haircut and the ropey moustache of a 14-year-old.
I think Hodge has got more facial hair.
He had that last year, mate. That now.
More footballing ability.
So, in terms of coaching, are you missing that as well?
I am now. So once again, it was like quite nice to have a little break away from it. But it does get to you after a while, having to do the same sort of stuff with the same people every week. But yeah, now it's the point. I just want to get out. I want to see people. I want to get back and actually do what I'm good at.
You're good at it.
I'd say I'm good at it.
Like, good at football?
Like silence. It's silence from the front. It's golden.
Should I go now or?
Silence from the best right back in the league.
So Matty, in terms of you obviously know what the FA guidelines are on social distancing, etc. at the moment. What's your thoughts on starting with goalkeeper coaching?
I think goalkeeping's a lot easier because obviously goalkeepers wear gloves anyway, so you don't have to worry about the handling the balls. You don't have to be next to each other as well. Too much for goalkeeping. It's literally one person in a goal. You could have a group of 5 kids and that coach, just like different spaces, hitting balls from different angles. So it would probably be easier to start goalkeeping than anything else.
I think we need one ball per kid as well, don't we? If I've understood it correctly.
Believe so.
You have to try and minimise the sharing of equipment is the way they've worded it. It's a little bit woolly, to be honest.
Yeah,
that's the thing I find.
Like
I find that a little bit frustrating in terms of what's come out from the FA, in terms of no sharing of equipment. So does that mean, from an outfield playing perspective, can you run a passing pattern? So can kids pass from one to another? Or does it have to be one ball only, so it's just strict ball mastery? You can't play competitive games. You can't play 1v1s, 2v2s. Goalkeeping, if it's Crutch coaching as an example and rotating of keepers, is that changeable every time? Can the coach pick the ball up, strike it at the keeper? I don't know.
See,
this is where, for me, in terms of coming back, these are loads of things that are concern.
Sorry?
I'm glad Tom said that, because when I read it, I thought it was really woolly. I get why people want to get back to football, but when you read the FA guidelines, I get they've got to come out and they've got to make a statement, but there was still too many questions. It wasn't really clear enough for me to be able to say, right, we can go back to football. And Tony's just in in 2 minutes has just described half the problems that I see when you read the FA guidelines. So I don't see how you can effectively be going back to training from next week like some clubs are, unless it's one lad with a ball mastery. That's it.
But
Yeah,
there is a sharing equipment. So at my work, basically, this is what it's all about, because we have members of staff that share equipment and stuff like that. So they have to sanitize the equipment before they use it to the other person. So if you watch the Bundesliga, you see them spraying footballs and stuff like that. That's what it's about. It's about making sure you've got the correct PPE in place in order to do this. Like Crutch said about the gloves and stuff like that, you've already got PPE there with your gloves. It's not that.
So am I right, Brad? You work in an industry where this is quite common now.
Yeah.
So Crutch has got a pair of goalkeeper gloves on. This might be a really stupid question. One of our kids are in goal with goalkeeper gloves on. Matt picks the ball up, strikes it. Now these are just goalkeeper gloves.
Yeah.
He catches it, kicks it back. Now these gloves aren't sanitized.
No,
unless you spray them pre-session. So if Matt gets his gloves out the cupboard, turns up and they've got infection on.
This is the same. We had all this. Don't you remember about people wearing gloves in public? People were saying that there's no point in wearing gloves in public unless you're discarding them every time you touch something. Essentially,
because it was the thing, wasn't it? If you go into if you went into Tesco wearing your gloves and you touch something outside, you then carry it in. It's absolutely redundant.
There's no
so how does that work?
It's all about trying to mitigate the risk. Even so, we have it where you can't maintain a 2 meter social distancing, mitigating the risk and all that sort of stuff. So, let's say you bring the gloves from home and not wear them. You literally wash them when you're at home, done. Not wear them, not touch them. Literally put them in your bag. You get out, you use them just to do your football with. Put them away, go home, sanitize them, whatever. How you do that with goalkeeper gloves, I do not know, but that's what you're meant to do, because we have the whole thing of, obviously, when you move rooms in your sections that you're working in, you have to take your gloves off, put a new set of gloves on, all that sort of stuff. But it is hard, because we've had it where we've had a client request that a cleaner comes in to work, they get changed, they go and then they do what they've got to do, and then they get fully dressed back into what they came in. And you're like, yes, but their clothes have also come from their house.
Yeah.
And you can see what they're trying to do. And I've got a Mary down the road who cleans the library for an hour every night. She's not going to come in, get changed, clean what she's got to do, get changed, go back home. It's just not.
It's also looking at. Sorry, don't go on, mate.
I get that Brad kind of nailed it when he said you can't eliminate the risk. What the FA are trying to do is get kids playing football again, but limit the risk and mitigate the risk. But the big thing for football with me is, and Tone, I can always remember on our earliest courses when they were talking about your sessions, they said if a kid comes up to you and says, we're going to play games in a minute, then there's something wrong with your session.
Yeah.
I know we want to get kids back into the environment of playing football, but at the root of it, the first thing they're going to want to do is have a game, have a match. Cole's going to meet one of his friends in the park on Sunday, like to kick a ball about, and they're going to want to play a game. But how do you make that function in a team session? At the moment, the big issue with football is you've got one core object that's transferable in whatever game you're playing. So you can limit the risk, but that ball is going to be moving from person to person to person to person, as Brad just said. So unless you're saying to kids, ball mastery, at the moment as it stands, one ball, one player, then that's why I've got problems with people I want to get back. I'm desperate to get back doing it all, but I can't see how we can go back next week as quickly as some people have, because I think it's just got to be thought through properly.
I think what we all spoke about earlier, and when the FA first started talking about coming back, and we all said start of July could be feasible. We'll see how the next few weeks go with kids going back to school. I still think early July is workable in my head. And my head is obviously a little bit naive with things. I look at it thinking we've got as a club 250, 270 kids, round numbers ish. I look at that, right, how many coaches do we need to run a session where we only train 5 kids per coach? So how many coaches do you need for that? Do 270 divided by 5. I was rubbish at school. Someone do that. Then does that one coach, can they go and coach another group of 5? Because that's a different bubble, so to speak. So all of a sudden, it's
on this one, Tone. I spoke
not a clue.
I spoke to Cookie earlier, who's obviously working in school and has been this week and next week. He said what they've kind of done is they've made a coach's bubble. So when they mark out their areas, they've got a coaching circle, so that one coach can coach numerous groups. So say you're doing ball mastery, you could coach 4 different groups of 5 that are all social distanced and they're apart from each other, and you're also distanced from them, and you're in a circle that they're not allowed to come into.
Yep.
So that way,
So you're then not cross. But then, so at the end of that, then, so let's say, Tom, you run a group of 5. That's fine. They've all got a ball each. We're just doing ball mastery. They finish their session. They go home. They leave the footballs where they are. They then need to be disinfected or whatever or cleaned, whatever we call it. So I would assume we'd have a massive bucket with cleaning fluid and water, whatever we have to use. We then clean the balls out, or we have a spray like Josh has been using at Maynard's Green. But then you've got to roll the ball around, get every part of the surface covered.
Yeah, but that's where you at that point, so you would put your gloves on, put the correct PPE on, and as a coach, you then sanitize the ball, stuff like that, so you don't come into contact. That's other than the glove.
And then once I've cleaned the footballs with those set of gloves, I have to bin those gloves. Yeah, I can't use them again.
No, that's it. They go. So you just need disposable gloves.
When I take the gloves off, potentially I'll have my hand will be naked. I then touch the outside of the glove that's got potentially infected.
Yeah, but this is you grab it from me, and then you sanitize your hands. It is all about mitigating. I've done 101 bloody risk assessments for every single. So the government brought out guidelines that at every single site or building, every single site user has to provide a COVID-19 risk assessment. So I've had to do this for all of the sites across my contract, which has been the best 2 weeks of my life. These massive risk assessments, signing them off and carrying out training for staff. But it is impossible to completely null the virus and completely null the risk. There's always a risk no matter what, but it's about putting the steps in place to ensure that you're mitigating it and you're stopping and you're protecting yourselves as much as possible. You're safeguarding yourselves and the people in the session. I said to Dunk last night, I sent him a message and said, if you're going to start bringing players back in, you want to put staggered arrival time. So you say that Tom's group, you turn up at 5 o'clock and your parents must leave. You literally drop the kids, leave them, and you must leave. And at 5:05, Josh's group turns up. And they all have to be there on the dot. And that way you're minimising the risk of parents, kids coming into contact with each other. If you've got a field, a playing surface, whatever, you have little sections on your field and your playing surface, and the kids literally get out the car, run to your section, do not come into contact with anybody else, pick their football up, that's their football, that's their only football they touch throughout the session, and that's it, done. And then they do it, you wash it when they go home, and they literally, when the session's over, they literally go straight to their car and they go home. But they have to come in the FA guidelines. It says they have to come in their equipment. They can't get changed. They can't bring anything with them. It's got to be
water bottles.
So water bottles.
Yeah, so they've said bring your own water bottle.
Own water bottle and stuff like that. But it's got to be in different sections. So you'd have different cone sections for different players. That's their space. That's where they put their stuff.
I think without sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Brad. I think what we've shown you in the space of a 10-minute conversation is how complicated it is, and we're all going to have to find our way. The tone set, and I think tone's right. Aim for early July. Maybe we can work out a plan, and early July possibly seems feasible if nothing changes massively. Next week, no, I can't.
The other thing as well,
very quickly, is we're looking at these little bubbles and these coaching bubbles. Tom, Josh, Saturday mornings in the hall, we struggle to stop kids chasing their football under the net and across onto the other side of the pitch when there's a 30-grade solid barrier. You're in little bubbles of 5. Little Billy's ball, he loses control, shoots off, goes across towards another pitch, and he shoots off towards it to get his ball back. Natural reaction. And then suddenly he's running in to contaminate another group. Now, that's just one thing off the top of your head. The thing you cannot eliminate, Brad's completely right, it's a bit like my day job with a lot of the stuff. You can't eliminate risk, but you can try and mitigate it, which is what we'll try and do. And then it'll be down to parents to decide whether they're comfortable with their kids coming back to play football.
That's going to be hard.
Yeah. I don't. So I've had to do these meetings with my staff, and they have to be in a well-ventilated room. And if we don't have a well-ventilated, so I'm in literally a library like the size of my blooming house.
Yeah, that's to all
if
be
I'm
outside.
in a library like that, I have to hold the meeting outside. Luckily, this has happened in the summer. So if you're going to bring a session back, you're more than likely going to put it on a playing field. You're not going to be trying to stuff. How many kids we try and stuff into the hall?
I was using Saturday mornings in the hall as an example, Brad. That was all kids.
I'm saying if you've got Saturday morning in the hall, you're going to have 5 kids on each. You're only going to have 10 kids in that whole hall. And if you're the coach, if you're a
Brad, you only
coach,
get that. I mean, I was speaking to Tone about this yesterday. It's not just a case. I think in people's heads, you kind of get it right. You've got to keep your 2 meter distance. So you'll have grids of 2 meters, and that's not how it works. For every grid,
You've got to have another 2 meter
every
gap.
player's space you have, you're going to have 8, essentially 2 meter boxes around that area. So for every child to have space, it's not a 2 by 2 meter grid. You're going to have at least sort of like, I think it was like 16 square meters. I think it was.
Yeah, you're 4x4 instead of 2x2.
Put them all close together.
And then if you think that's for 5 kids, so you've got a 4x4 grid is what, 16 meters squared times by 5 is 80 meters squared for 5 kids. How big is a football pitch? Roughly.
You get 60 by 100. You got 6,000 square meters.
But is how many you can fit in?
How groups? How far have they got to be apart?
There's a massive challenge as well. If we forget COVID for a second, as he's talking about COVID itself, if we're talking about the development of kids and football, the big thing we've always aimed at, and you look at our Saturday morning sessions in the hall, is we like lots of kids in a tight area.
Space, yeah.
They can learn to create space, deal with pressure, work on their touch, well on their ball control. That whole line of thinking is still exact. I believe in it 100% for a kid to develop and learn to be comfortable on a football and take risks on a football pitch. But we're now saying, with the present environment, we can't do that. So how do we get across to kids the ability to deal with the ball in tight spaces, under pressure, etc., 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 when we're telling them you can't be within 2 meters of another child?
That's a great point, but that actually excites me a little bit. I love the idea of
come up with something.
Oh, exactly.
To overcome that challenge in terms of a coaching point of view. My main concern would be, if you go back, Krutz or Josh, if you went back to think back to like when you were, 10, 12, 13, whatever, what was the main reason you played football?
Mum wanted me out the house.
Right, yeah.
I just enjoy playing.
Was the main reason because you wanted to get better at football? Or was it because you wanted to see your mates, the social side of things? And you're not going to get, to an extent, you're not going to get that when we come back. You're going to lose a massive part of that because you can't just stop and have a chat with your mate, and you can't just go over and say hello.
That side of it's difficult. You got more chance of the social interaction by meeting your mate at the moment. You can get into groups of 6, can't you? So us 6 would go and have a kickabout.
Yeah,
it's a little bit unofficial, whatever. We as a club can't endorse 6 kids going for a kickabout. Separate ball, separate area, etc., etc. So as a parent, you go and work with your other household links, whatever, and get your 6 together. My lad Alf's been out with a couple of his mates and had a kickabout. That's unofficial. They do is that. Just be sensible is my sort of view on it. But as a football club, and if we're suddenly going right, training's back then, and God forbid someone catches COVID, one of the family members becomes really poorly, and something dreadful happens. Are we liable? I don't know. I don't know what the crack is. And he's trying to. Yeah, I get it, Brad. If we limit the risk, if we mitigate everything, and we cover all our steps, that's fine. But in terms of our responsibility, I look at it thinking, I'm not comfortable going, right, we're back now. We're doing this, this, and this. In my head, I'm thinking, schools have been back just 2 weeks now. If there's going to be a spike, there'll be a spike by end of this month, I would imagine. If it comes back for a second wave, we'll know more come end of the month. So in my head, early July works. The other thing, forgetting COVID completely, football season don't start till September from a kid's perspective. We've got 2 months yet. And I get, Tom and I had this conversation yesterday. I get we haven't played for ages. I get they missed a lot because of the weather. Completely get that. But in my head, I'm thinking for the older age groups, if I start too early, if I hit the ground running really quickly, I've got injury concerns to factor in for older kids as they're growing. They've done nothing for months. So my lot we've started doing online little bit of work. If they come back too soon, they're going to pick up injuries. If they start too early, they'll get injuries later on in the season because they've done too much.
Yeah, it makes it really
getting that workload balance right. And I'm exactly what Dunk said earlier. I would love us to be back training this week. But in my head, I'm thinking if we come back too soon, and if we just blasted ball mastery for the beginning part of it, kids will soon get fed up with it. If I'm going to a kid, stay out of these box, you can't go in there, you can't do that, you can't do this, it becomes prohibitive of what you want to do. Kids love playing games. We do as a club, a lot of 1v1s, a lot of 2v2s, a lot of small-sided games. We can't do any of that. We endorse that heavily. Whether that be on a big pitch, you still can't do it. I would imagine you can do some sort of passing pattern and some sort of finishing work.
I hope you can.
Yeah.
I would imagine you can do that. But until we know this for definite, it's really difficult. Until we know we can share a ball between kids, I don't know.
Well, that's
we need at least 270 footballs, roughly.
Well,
No, you don't, because you need, say you run 5 groups at a time, you need 40 balls. That's fine, we can do that. We then need to clean them. We then need to make sure they're all right. It's
the only alternative.
Can I start a question? Tom and Tone, because you just hit on it yourself. When I read that guidelines, I didn't get a clear picture on whether you can play a passing drill.
not a clue.
No,
Mate,
you
Can you?
can. You
Well,
can.
If I share the ball with you, Brad, do you have to clean it before you can
There's
control
no
it?
sharing
No,
of
no,
equipment.
but it's different. It's different because you're not
Okay.
picking the ball up.
The football
Like-
boots need to be disinfected then.
No,
Right?
no,
No,
it's not.
hang on. So I'm being really argumentative and playing devil's advocate. I pass it to Dunk. We do a little passing drill. Shoot. Session finishes. I finish. I take my boots off. I forgot to clean my hands. Do I again does it then transfer from my boot to my hands?
No, but this is it.
I don't know.
It's all you've got to disinfect. This is it. It's a different way of life. Times are going to be different.
I don't want it to be, Bradley.
Everyone's gonna have to adapt to this. But the thing is times will be different, and you've also got to mitigate the risk of if we're at Catsfield, for example. The amount of time someone's just walked up to a session, whether it's a parent, a stranger, they've walked straight up to a session, a dog, anything like that, you've got to look for these things, and you haven't even thought about that yet. But the amount of times we've just had our summer holiday coaching, you think the amount of people that come to the rec. Of course, we've safeguarded the kids, we've got the kids, and we look out for them. But the amount of times that someone could literally just walk up and just say, "Oh, hello."
We're at the moment. We've made contact with all of the venues we use, asking, are we allowed to restart? FA guidelines are we can. Are you as a venue happy for us to start using it? So we use St Anne's Academy a lot. If I'm a school, would I want an outside provider coming in with children that aren't going to my school, increasing the risk? I would guarantee you schools won't be hiring out.
So this is why this is why we've had to do these COVID-19 risk assessments, because in their risk assessments, they would have gone through the possibility, the risk factor of this taking place, of having external providers come into their school. This is what this is what the risk assessment is. So the company that has taken over the lettings at SLA will have had to have done a risk assessment basically for us coming in and delivering our football for all sessions. That's what they do.
And based on that, sorry, Brad, that company are very keen to take money, as we all know, and they're very keen to let out everything that annoys us a little bit. They haven't made any contact in terms of you can now hire, apart from saying if you make a £200 donation to the school, you can guarantee your booking for next year. Don't get anything for it, you just make a donation.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
They should. I'm fairly certain they would have had to have done this risk assessment, and in their risk assessment will basically be the risks of us coming in and delivering a session, and they would have had to have done this. But you've also got to think, and we're very as a club, like we obviously do the football for all, and we're like come up, turn and play. But at the end of the day, when we get back to normal, there will have to be a system of you book for your child to come, because you're going to have to limit numbers, and you're going to have to do it like that. We are very open to the public and want every kid to have an opportunity to play football. But unfortunately, it's not going to be like that when you go back, because you are going to have to go. There are 20 places, and if you don't get on the 20 places, you can't train with us.
Yeah.
Eventually, it will go to 30, 40, 50, and the world can join us again. But for the time being, you will have to limit, and it will start with just Tom delivering a session, and then it will start with Tom and Tony delivering a session, and then it will be me, Josh, Krutz, Dunk. We're all there. And we're all doing
I was hoping I wouldn't have to work.
But the thing is, that's how it's going to be, and you just got. And it also says on the FA guidelines you have to have two DBS, adult DBS members present, or present with a DBS. So how does that work? Because you are only allowed 6 people there, but you're allowed 5 players and 1 coach.
I'm glad you said that, because that confused the life out of me as well, Brad. I was like, well, 2 DBSs on top of the 6 or part of the 6? It was just one of the DBSs. Is that the coach?
One's the coach, but
DBS.
Yeah. But
so is it 7 people?
It's 7 people, but obviously what they're trying to say is that the 7th person is just there as a. I don't really understand I don't understand why they put that in place.
Parents, look, I think what this is demonstrating for parents, anyone who's actually taking the time to listen to it, is that it is complicated. We are giving it a lot of thought. We're not rushing back, and I think we're not rushing back for the right reasons. Me personally, I would rather take the approach we're doing, work it out until to a point where we're comfortable. We've got a plan in place that is correct, and if we lose a few players to other teams because they're that desperate to play football, so be it. Parents, good luck. But for us,
100%.
my main concern is to our coaches, Tone, and also to our players and parents that we're doing the right thing for them. And when we've worked out a plan, they can then decide whether they're happy for their child to play in that environment.
The other thing to that, Doug, as well, is like Tom mentioned when I said that earlier about welfare of our Pass+Move members. Tom made the point about their wider families. If you've got a nan or a granddad who's in the higher risk category, and you suddenly take that home.
It's how far you go with it as well. Because
we're going to have to lay out a clear plan that we're happy with, that we've not just interpreted as being correct by the FA guidelines, but probably got to get it confirmed as well, do a proper risk assessment, as Brad said as well. And then at that point, we share that with the parents and we say, this is how we're planning to go. Give us your feedback. Also, if you're not happy with that, you don't have to take part. It's not going to jeopardise your place at our club. We're a family and we're a journey. We will always be there for you. If you're not ready to come back yet, it's fine. You don't have to. But I'm not rushing back into it.
Sorry, Brad. I see you guys. The other thing linked to all of this is so the FA have set right. So as a football club, we have to take out the FA insurance as a club, which we've done. So we all go through the Bluefin insurance policy. Every single club has to do it. So it's the same provider. Now the FA have said, check with your insurance provider. Now, sure, if it was that straightforward on the FA statement, they've spoken to the insurance provider that they make everyone use. Not a clue. So I've not had anything from Blue. I'm the one that books the insurance. I've had nothing back on that yet. So I don't know.
Who's got the kids coming through in the background?
Who's got kids screaming?
That could be me and my neighbours.
That's lovely. Can you just shout out the window to them, Kratz? Just
mute when you're not talking. Kratz, just mute when you're not talking.
No, Kratz, just throw something at them. Throw a ball at them, but tell them not to pick it up.
But the thing is, linked to this as well, and a lot of people won't see this side of it, is, of course, every business and everything at the moment is really struggling. And at the end of the day, it also does come down to a financial factor. And the fact is, if we've got to book out a venue like SLA, well, we're used to having our 70, 80 kids that covers the costs and covers the coaches' costs and covers the insurances, covers new footballs, all this sort of stuff. You think you're looking at more footballs that we may have to purchase if we have larger groups of sessions. You've got to look at the venue in the first place. And at the end of the day, when you first start your sessions, you're only going to have 10 kids there with, say, 4 coaches. It's not financially feasible at all. It's not. You're not going to go out your way to spend loads and loads of money if you're not going to.
I had someone suggest to me.
Sorry, Duncan.
I had someone suggest to me, well, can't they, when they turn up for their first session, can't they pay a little bit more and all get given a Pass+Move football? I said, you know what? In theory, that's a brilliant idea. They bring that football to every session. But then I said, but you need to check my boot to see the lost property and left behind kit of things as simple as a jacket. You're talking about an individual kid having a Pass+Move football that they're going to retain and not lose during a session. It's just lovely idea in theory.
I think the older age. I think it'll be easier and quicker to get back to playing the older age group. Secondary school upwards, social distancing will be easy. I mean, year 6s are back at school, so I would imagine year 6s up would be quite straightforward. I would have thought, because you should understand things more. It should be able to comply with things a bit more. The younger age groups will kick in later. I firmly believe there'll be a lot of shops are open, non-essential shops open from Monday. So the next 2 weeks, there's going to be a lot of changes in our way of life anyway. So I'd imagine there'll be a lot of things evolving. So I'm still confident early July for team sessions. Football for all sessions, summer holiday sessions at the moment, not a Scooby. I would imagine we're looking at football for all starting in September. As for summer holidays, I'd love us to be able to start doing holiday sessions again, because it's a big thing for us as a club.
I can't wait to do like 6 hours of ball mastery.
I was going to say, you've got to come up with 6 hours of.
But so when all the guidelines first got announced that you could start going back to small groups, I think Tom Dunk, I think the three of us had a chat about, well, potentially we get all of our coaches there, and we're there. We block out say 4 hours, and we do 5 kids each.
Yeah.
And that they go home, next group turn up. In reality, those 4 hours is nowhere near long enough. By the time you've got staggered drop-off collection times, people will be late because of traffic, because of things happen. What do you do with them? What do you do with the lost property that's left? Walk away and leave it because you can't pick it up. Do we have a massive incinerator there? A kid not picked up, we burn him as well. Whatever, just get rid of it. Not a problem. I don't know, mate. It's honestly, it's frying my brain. I've got this work, family, everything else. It's giving me a headache. I don't know what we're doing.
Is that why you're so moody today?
That's why I've got no
He's
hair.
just got it all out. This is like Tone's therapy session.
No, honestly, my therapy was picking on Dunk's shocking look for last week in his wrist. I'm all good now. I've got it out of the system.
Can I charge you for this
Lockdown
session,
list,
Tone?
isn't he?
Do what, Josh?
Can I charge you for this therapy session?
No, mate, Dunk's the only one who should charge me is Dunk. Josh, you're just irrelevant. It's fine.
I've been picking on Dunk as well. Come on, help me.
Well, not really. You just made him hang up. So for me, I think it's like we all agree. We'd love us to get back to it. Team sessions, I think July is feasible. I just think there's so much to factor in. And the FA, like, I don't know who said it earlier, whoever, about if you've gone back already, and the FA statement only came out yesterday, and we've read it. A lot of us have. Tom said it, and Tom's read it back to back.
They've gone back. They've planned to go back next week, and the FA statement hadn't even dropped.
Some teams have started this week, mate. Some have gone live already.
But yeah, that was based on the
We're not saying that's right or wrong. We're just saying that's down to them. It's just
good luck with that.
we don't agree.
And I look at things like that as a parent. If Alf was playing for a different club and I weren't part of it, as a parent, I would want to make sure everything was as it needs to be, and there was a minimal. You can never eliminate risk completely, as Brad already said. It would need to be, for me, I would need to be comfortable that it's the right thing. And I'm sure those that have gone back have done their due diligence and they're happy with it. And brilliant. And that's hard saying that word. But good luck to them. But for me, as us six sat here now, and me as the chairman, all that, I'm not comfortable saying, yep, we're going back now. So,
great. I'm agree. I'll tell you what is lovely. Having said that, we've been contacting the players. Tom's been contacting the players, and the unanimous response we're getting from players of all ages that they want to come back and re-sign is fantastic to hear. So we know we're doing it right, and I like to think a big part of that doing it right is things like this, where we're saying no matter how much they want to play football, sorry, not yet, not till
there's also ways of being flexible and use your initiative to do different things. I know that a few of our coaches have been doing different bits with their teams. My lot of this morning, we ran a Zoom fitness session for the under 15s as they'll be, and that's don't have to do it, but if they all want to do something, we'll all get in. And I had 15 of them, I think it was, doing bits. So it's as coaches we can be creative. It's mate, we're dancing and throwing shapes.
I've had some really tough contract negotiations with my 10s going 11s. I've had players saying they're only going to sign based on what I do with my hair.
Mate, leave it. You got Tom Selleck coming on a tree.
Was that Ollie? Was that Ollie Morrell?
Mate, I had Archie Giles who said he's only going to sign if I do an Andy Carroll top knot.
I tell you what, here's one. I shouldn't mention this one. So the under 8s, right? Because I sent him a video for some like challenges and stuff. Came back and Frankie Shaw decided my hair makes me look like Caitlyn Jenner.
Yes, Frankie Shaw, good from you. Top man.
Frank
Pass+Move player of the season.
Yeah, next year's player of the year is done.
I thought you'd like that. I absolutely killed. I was crying. Yeah, Caitlyn Jenner.
So based on this, right, boys, based on this, then
should have seen him in the 3/4 lengths.
Based on this, we've got
accurate.
We've got managers meeting Wednesday night online to discuss next steps, get the feedback from all the coaches, how they're feeling about restarting, what they want to do, and hopefully we'll have a better update that we'll get out back end of this week of what our next steps are. But ideally, early July, certainly for the older ones. If that's not to be, though, we'll push it back. And if the wider society needs things to change again and lockdown becomes reinforced, we'll obviously delay again. So we'll go based on what's happening in society. The other thing, Jonesy, and I said to you I really didn't care earlier, what's the crack with the website, son? Give us an overview. Let everyone know what we're doing.
The website goes live. It's already live. It's just been updated. The Facebook channel.
Same web address? Or have we...
Same web address, same website. It's just all been refreshed. We're starting the blog again as well. So there'll be regular.
What's the web address? Come on, I'm serving them up. You need to knock them out of the park. What is the website address for those of us that haven't looked?
www.pass-move.com.
Pass-Move.
Pass+Move.com, and Brad has done a great job as well on all the social channels, reskinning it all. There's a new book. The blog will be restarting, so you'll be seeing regular articles from all of us that you can look at on the blog with our thoughts.
Already read
None of us have agreed to this.
Get on there, 'cause it's the next there.
That's a pretty colour scheme, boys. I have looked at this
going
already,
back to
obviously.
COVID-19 very quickly, but it does link to what Tony has just said. I was asked by one parent when we were talking about the website, why haven't we got the FA statement on the website? My response was,
Good luck.
because I don't think it helps. So that's it. A lot of people will slap that on their website to say, here's the FA guidance, but I don't think that helps a parent. If anything, it can just be misleading, as we've just proved. So that's why it's not on there.
That's why when we do one on Facebook, I always, instead of just whacking up what they say, I always adapt it to try and suit it to our club, because they do just put out a general thing. And to be honest, you look at it and you're like,
But you've got to remember that FA statement will go to every single football club in the UK. Now, there's football clubs with their own venue, so they can effectively shut the gate, not have any strangers walk in or anyone from the public come anywhere near their sessions. They can lock the gate and you're in a locked field. Fine, that helps you maintain your social distancing. If you're like the thousands of grassroots clubs out there that play on a recreation ground, that play on public fields, play at Ball for Rec or whatever it is, how do you... We already spoke about this earlier, about dog walkers and everything else getting close to your session. How do you stop that? So this one statement from the FA isn't a one announcement fits all clubs. Every club is different. It's got more players. If you run one team, it's a lot easier. So I was talking to Luke last night, and Crowhurst restart next week. So it's effectively just one side. So a couple of coaches, 9 kids, I think they've got, can run it. It's that getting that back going. I see that being workable. Getting a whole club going back, trying to manage it ourselves, trying to make sure we're doing it with the right responsibility we feel we have to all of our members is a completely different ball game. And that is not up for rushing it going back.
It sounds like a negative as well, because we're a bigger setup. That's not a negative. We're not saying go play for a smaller club. I think we'll go all the way back to what we've always said. I think we're more than a football club. I think just being a football club isn't what we are. We're a bigger thing for kids, parents. We're a community. We're a support network, and we're here to look after them. And the football, almost in a way, especially at the moment, is secondary. We're here, as we spoke about with mental health, we're here for their well-being. We're here for support, whatever they need, whenever they need it. And we, more than anyone, want to get back to playing football. I'm desperate to get back coaching and playing, but when it's right. And if we, as any parent, you have to say to your kid now and then, no. And with all 300 players at the moment, we're saying sorry, no. But
really good way.
Quick question. Sorry, Tom, go on.
Perspective in terms of numbers is everyone's heard in the news about the troubles that schools have had and how different schools look going back. They've only got 3 age groups going back, essentially reception.
I think there's four classes altogether.
Workers, right? You could have the entirety from all the way from like reception through to year 6, so 7 year groups of a 1-4 entry primary school would have less children than our football club. So that shows you how difficult it is. Not just getting age groups, getting 250 whatever children back is a real headache. So that's why
it's also looking at. I mean, we've already covered this off before. All our coaches are from a football club perspective, in terms of the club, what we provide, SC Pass+Move. Every coach is voluntary. So in order for Dunk to run his under 8s, 10 kids, Dunk, roughly.
Yeah,
10 kids. So. Right, you do plus you, that's 11, so that's 3 groups. A 45-minute session, if we're being fair. 15 minutes staggering either side, that's an hour and a quarter per group. So you're there for literally 4 hours to get your team done. One team.
Well, I'll tell you
one coach, 4 hours.
We've worked so hard to get a structure in place that functions, the Saturday teams, the Sunday teams. But intrinsically, that's 3 teams that then we're asking to mix to play on a Sunday. Yeah. So at the moment, things like that we've got to look at. We still want to do that because it's the right thing, but how do we handle that with COVID-19? I really like the idea of when we... Sorry, mate. So all I was going to say is I like to think that even though we're a big setup, this won't hurt us. I think this will help us grow, because I think it just shows even more that we're more than just a football club. We're here to care about the kids, care about the parents. You look at a coach who's self-employed, right, comes and takes a session, and he does pick something up because we haven't handled things properly. Suddenly they can't work for however long. And that's their livelihoods. That's affecting their families. They could take him past their families, to their parents, etc., etc. We've got a massive responsibility, and I think we've just got to be very, very careful how we address it. And that's not saying we don't want to get back playing football.
When we first spoke, I really like the idea of going, you know what, we can have 15 coaches there from out the club, as an example. We could go, we'll do 7s, 8s, 9s, and we'll split those 15 coaches in amongst those groups. And we do the social distancing based on small groups, and whatever the numbers work out to be, we do it that way. We then get they all go home, we stagger the break, next group turn up, and the same coaches run a different session with different age groups. And I love that idea in terms of every child gets exposed to different coaches. We all had that whole family feel that Dunk's already covered off. But in reality, how long are you going to be there? How long am I asking you boys to give up your time for? I mean, I've got family. Dunk's got family. Tom's got his house with his missus. Josh lives under the stairs because no one likes him. But how long are you allowed? How long do we expect a coach to be out the house for? How long are we saying? You know what, Tom? You're going to be out for 5 hours a day on a voluntary basis. Yeah. We all do it. And to be fair, that's a standard weekend, really, boys. How do you manage it? And then you get a flack at the other end if God forbid something goes wrong. If something God forbid something's to go wrong, you give up your time, you do all this, and we're all trying to get kids back playing just for the sake of it. Something goes wrong. Because there will be blame. There is always blame. There is always fingers pointed. I don't need that grief in my life.
I think the other thing worth noting, and my response was, I don't care, is that some clubs will do it.
Yeah, good luck to them.
And do you know what, mate? They might get lucky and sail through it, right? And they might go back playing. They might not be as careful. And do you know what? In 6 months' time, they'll look back and say, well, it worked for us. Do you know what? My answer when I was told that suggested me, I don't care. It doesn't make it right.
I genuinely, if you've gone back already or you're going back next week, I really hope it all goes well. Generally do. I mean, the sooner we can all get kids back playing football, brilliant. That for me is because I think not just in terms of their football development, at the moment, forget that because that is secondary to everything. Their mental health, well-being, everything like that, I think it's essential we can get back to some form of normality as quickly as possible. But to do it without taking the due diligence, and I just think it's a massive risk, personally. I mean, there's probably people at other clubs that know more than I know, so I'll hold my hands up and go, fair play.
Have any pro academies gone back yet?
How can they know more than you know, Tone? They're only reading the same info that we are.
To put it, Josh has just made a good point. To put it into context, we've a couple of players that are obviously in contact with Brighton, and so that they've been involved in the pre-academy. They're looking to be involved in the academy when this all comes back, and they've not had any contact on coming back yet.
There won't be.
Does that not speak volumes for where we are?
The Premier League. The Premier League's the first to return, and their youth teams haven't returned.
Tom made a very good point about the schools because everywhere you go, like every single building, public building, shop, wherever you go, you'll be in a one-way system throughout this whole shop now, and literally
Brad, you just hinted on a great idea. Can we have like Pacman football?
Oh,
how would that be? Oh, look,
what do I do when I catch him? I can't touch him.
Everywhere you go, there will be a one-way system around the shop. And basically, it'll all be about. I don't know what the point I'm making here is now, but basically, Tom made a very, very good point about the schools and about the amount of space being used. Because I've literally, while I've been sitting here, I've been having great fun colouring maps of a school because they're bringing year 10s. They're bringing the whole of year 10 back to one of my schools next week. And they're using 75% of the school. This school has about 60 classrooms in it. Mental. And that's 1 year group. Like, that's how much time, space is used just trying to get a year group back to school. It's just crazy. And even when they go back, it's not normal at all. It's not. It is going to be different. It is going to be hard, and it's going to be different for people learning maths, English, science, and learning football. Something's got to change. People have got to accept that there's going to be a change of normality, and there will be for a long, long time. This will, when we come out of this, and God forbid, we do all go back to normal, it still won't be normal. Nothing, it will never be what it was, because this virus shows what can really happen. It's crazy how you think about it, how far like everything's come. Like, and I mean, just the general point of like the world and the whole people, and then it's just stopped like that. Everything just stops.
Pacman to a philosophy lesson, and
Pacman to philosophy lessons, but literally everything just stopped dead, and it shows you how crazy that can be and how quick things can change like that, and things will change, and people have got to accept that it will be like that going forward.
You know, you're saying about the school and the older age groups, and this kind of wraps us back very quickly one last time into the challenges as coaches. When they're not in lessons, older kids are still going to socialise in their groups. They're older kids, so you can trust them to be sensible. When you've got a group of youngsters, you're always told, right, never turn your back on a training session. I get that, because it can run out of control. But now even more so, you've got 6 kids and you turn your back for a second. What are they going to do? They're going to be running around, high-fiving each other, talking to their mates.
Jonesy, everyone knows me. My age group's the under 14s going to under 15s. Alf went over the rec for a kickabout, and all of a sudden, next thing I know, they're all trying to play tag.
Yeah.
And levering the ball at each other.
kiss chase, I think it's called, time.
It might be, mate. And that's fine, because it's.
No, we'll get back
that's
to
all right.
But
How do you? I look at that. That's kids 14. You know, I drove past a football pitch the other day, and there's a group of kids playing head tennis, like keepy uppy, like we've all done, and they're all really tight together. And what do you do? So it might be, as a coach, you're finishing setting up. You scream at your group of 14, 15-year-olds to split. And
I'm genuinely interested in, right? On Sunday, we're going to the park, so Jonesy can see one of his friends and have it. They were going to have a kickabout in the park. Technically, are they allowed to kick the ball to and from each other?
Nope. You're a bad parent, Duncan.
I'm a bad parent.
I went to a school. I went to a secondary school and to go and do one of these risk assessments, and there's a primary school right next to it, and the kids were literally like just on their break or whatever. And as I drive past, I look at the playground, and the kids are just running about like normal, and I'm like, what? How was it, Brad?
Name and shame. Name and shame the school, Brad. Unless we coach there, then don't do it.
No, but the kids were just running about, and then they were trying to put the kids into like 2-meter lines to go and walk back into the school. And it was so funny because you're just sitting there, and the teachers are like, but they can't go and move a kid and be like, right, if you come here, Johnny, and you go there, and they're trying to tell this kid to get in the 2-meter line, and the kids are like, oh,
do you know
the sky's blue
at the moment? We should play that bubble football. Let's invest in some of those bubbles.
Yes.
We'll play bubble football.
Good from you, Tom.
Yes. I want to play that.
Kick around while they're in the bubbles.
We could pioneer virtual reality football.
I'll tell you the other one.
Moving on.
How much funding we got, Tone?
Not a lot.
Stop Joshua. Yeah, wait, when was the last time people paid subs?
Not at the moment, no.
Scraping the barrel at the moment.
If we give Tony free reign on some virtual reality equipment, it's only going to
no. Oh, no.
I've been told, well, we shouldn't have to worry that much because we've got the third lowest infection rate in the country. So we shouldn't have to worry about it. I mean, come on. It means nothing. I mean, it doesn't mean we can be less careful just because at the moment the area we live in is quite low in the amount of cases in the area. It's that kind of attitude that freaks me out more than anything, because it kind of makes
careful and he got infected.
Are going to be lax about it.
Was not careful.
Welcome, Krutz.
That was something completely different. That wasn't COVID.
I'm pretty laid back about most things, and I'm for my own well-being. I'm quite happy to go to the shop. I'm quite happy to be quite relaxed and stuff. However, I look at this and go, we have got a responsibility for a much wider group of people. I'm not prepared to go with my viewpoint on how I conduct myself and how I look after myself, because everyone's got a different view. Dunk will have a different view to me on how you do things, etc. You boys will. It's we have to take a view that works for every single person. And as Dunk rightly pointed out earlier, if you're not comfortable bringing your child back, that is completely fine, and that won't affect anything. I'm completely relaxed with that. It's not a question of we're training, you've got to be here. If you don't turn up, you ain't playing. It's very much coming up with the thing that is suitable, we believe, to get back to football, but it has to be a way that works and gives us greatest protection and limits, as Brad mentioned earlier, mitigates the risk in the highest possible way. And that for me is crucial to all of it.
I think that's a good way to end on it, to be fair.